Welcome to the New York Weightlifting Podcast. I'm James McDermott, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Sara Soto, and our special guest, Kurt Roderick. Kurt is a national level coach in USA Weightlifting. He's an IWF Category 1 technical official. He's the head coach and the owner of Murder of Crows Barbell in Brooklyn, New York, and many other titles, King of the Andals, all that stuff. We'll do our Game of Thrones intro, and we're going to learn all about Kurt and also his club today. So, welcome both of you. Sara, how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Nothing exciting to report again.
Awesome. All right.
Getting ready for the Murder of Crows Open and Nationals week.
Okay. All right. So that is a lot. That's actually a very time consuming,
Yeah,
very busy task.
yeah.
Cool. Kurt, how are you? Welcome.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm doing well. I'm also gearing up for the Murder Crows Open and the National Week. And I also we started testing for my master's thesis. So that's started
Excellent.
up. A few other odds and ends, but
Fantastic. Well, we're excited to learn all about more about the Murder Crows Open because there's some history there and also some of your research studies. But first, we have to start off with possibly the most important question we're going to ask of the day. It's kind of become a theme on the podcast. Sara and I are gigantic wrestling nerds, and which, by the way, Sara, I just watched the Iron Claw. Maybe we'll have to do just a
No,
whole solo episode on that. Oh, you didn't like it? All right, never mind, never mind.
no, it's not. It's just not a happy story. It's not a happy
Yeah,
story. It's not something.
it was pretty sad, you know. But Kurt, if you could choose at the Murder Crows Open, they're going to announce you WWE entrance theme song. What's playing in the gym? What is it?
yeah, good question. So what is Wagner's Bumblebee? The Flight of the Bumblebee. I'm gonna go with that, partly because of Apocalypse Now. I loved when they're coming in with the helicopters, they're blasting that.
There
Um,
is a wrestler in WWE that used that. He has now made the jump to the wrestling company that I follow. Brian Danielson uses it. So you there. You gave yourself one. You didn't even know
I maybe we have to like have a fight and to decide who gets the key.
it.
Be an epic
I would have
match.
picked I would have picked. I thought about this a lot, and I actually this seems like an easy one, but I would have picked for Kurt purely based on the type of character and the name of his entrance theme, Stone Cold Steve Austin, because the title is "I Won't Do What You Tell Me."
I can see that. I can see that. It's everybody wants that glass breaking. Maybe everybody can have glass breaking before their song, and then that Wagner song comes on. That'd be an interesting
Yes,
combo. I think
but
if
yeah,
I was going to pick
Kurt's a
one,
little stick it to the man, but yeah. So.
just
My
based
during
off
my
of the whole
wedding.
Murder of Crows and theme, I would maybe go with Raven's theme song. Like Blackbird cawing. I think that would be. He did have some cool theme songs, and I think he's a little underrated and underappreciated a little bit. Raven. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
He could have been a big star in the WWE, but they just didn't know what to do with him. Awesome. All right. Well, now we know the theme song, and everybody can go out and put on their Spotify that song. What is it again, Kurt?
The Flight of the Bumblebee by Wagner.
Flight of the Bumblebee by Wagner. Great. I'm sure
Oh
it's
wait,
it's
no,
awesome
that's
to
not
train to as well.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
the Flight of the Valkyries. No,
Oh, Flight
Flight
of
of
the
the Valkyries
Valkyries.
is
Right.
different.
I don't know why I'm thinking bumblebees, but I am.
I
But
mean, that's
yes,
a good
it's Flight
one
of the
too, but
Valkyries. Yes, correct.
When we
I get
add the glass
I gotta
breaking, then it
get better
becomes
with
the Flight of the
Wagner.
Bumblebees.
yeah.
Get up to speed with Wagner.
So So, Kurt, one thing that I didn't add to your list of titles and accomplishments at the beginning of the show is that you were recently named the 2023 first ever Coach of the Year for the New York WSO. Congratulations again, well deserved.
Thank you.
Do you have any words for the people on winning this?
It's nice. It was nice. I always I think I wrote to you and I said to you like it feels more of a it's a club effort. Like anytime when like a coach is getting an award, sure, coaches definitely work hard, but like they're nothing without athletes, without their support coaches. So we've just had a lot of athletes, especially the last couple of years, that have been really, really working their butts off. to get to a high level of competition, and they're having a lot of fun, and it's been a lot of joy to be able to coach and help them out on that. So it was a nice gesture, and I was quickly wanted to make sure that everyone knew, yes, that was a full on club effort. I've just been lucky this past couple of years for these athletes. They've been awesome.
That's awesome. I agree. You know, it takes a village to raise a coach, and then the coach is there to support the village. And it's if you didn't have any athletes, you can't go, you know, you can't go to the big dances. You can't do all these things. And yeah, it also may not drive you to pursue them either. So yeah, all credit to the athletes and fellow coaches, and but also credit to the coach that's there after the gym closes, sweeping up, you know, picking up the papers, up late at night doing programming for the athlete that didn't text you all day, and now all of a sudden they want to work out at 5 a.m. and you got to get them their programming. We know on this podcast what you do behind the scenes, and it's definitely a part of it and appreciated, no doubt, by your athletes and your entire community.
We're having fun for sure.
Definitely. So congratulations again. Sara, where are we going next in our exploration of Kurt?
So, I mean, I know a lot of this stuff, but it's all very interesting anyway. Kurt, how did you begin weightlifting?
How did I begin with weightlifting? Yes. So I started with a lot of people, like a lot of people with CrossFit. I was not, you know, as an athlete when I was really young. You know, my father was recreation director. I played a lot of sports. I was involved in coaching and reffing in a lot of different capacities for like baseball, basketball, etc. But you know, at the end of high school and going into college, I decided to be a delinquent and do extracurricular activities that didn't have anything to do with athleticism. And then I was pursuing my PhD in political science. My friend he started getting me to go to the YMCA, and he's like, yeah, we got to work out. And so I'm trying to like do these things. I'm trying to squat. And he gave up his membership and then joined a CrossFit gym because they let him have his dog there. And he signed up for a year membership on the spot the first week they opened. And I was like, you're my workout partner. Who else am I going to, like, you know, stand on the elliptical machine for 40 minutes with and talk to? So I went to the CrossFit gym. I fell in love with it. And this was 2007, going into 2008. And I really fell in love with the lifts, but no one, especially at that time, really in CrossFit world, knew how to coach. And where I was in Western Massachusetts, there really was no weightlifting coaches that were available at that time. And then
What year is this, Kurt?
2007, 2008.
Got it.
I was in the Pioneer Valley. I was going to school at UMass. And so I moved to New York City in 2010. And at that point, I'd been doing CrossFit for several years, kind of on my own at various gyms or even at a New York sports club with steel plates trying to snatch, which is fun. And I was, just trying to find coaches, just trying to find a way to learn how to do the lifts more. People started having me coach. I started coaching at CrossFit 718 here. And then because I walked in and they were just grand opening starting. They're like, you've been doing it longer than anyone. You want to help us? We need coaches. I'm like, sure. So I did my level 1, and then I quickly did my USAW L1, I think that same 2010, 2011. And that was with Artie Dressler. They just started teaching the full snatch, clean, and jerk. Because before that time, they were just doing powers. So they just taught the power snatch. They just taught the power clean and jerk.
For the USAW level 1?
Yeah, because it was all for strength and conditioning coaches that
Oh, wow.
had no desire to teach those movements, the full movements. But, you know, we had all these CrossFit coaches like myself coming up, and like, we didn't really care so much about the powers. We're like, anyone can do the power. We want to learn how to do the full lifts. We want to know what a competition is. We want to know how to do these things. So I did the level 1, then I signed up for a competition. And I actually bumped into Leo Totten. He was running the competition, and I had warmed up, I think, 40 minutes before the before I was supposed to. I warmed up to 90%. I was like hitting it in the back room, and he's like, "Do you need help?" Like, yeah, I need a lot of help. So he helped me out. He worked. I went 6 for 6. I had a 1 kilo PR on my snatch, a 1 kilo PR on my clean and jerk, and I think I won gold in the novice division. So
Very cool.
that got me hooked, and then I continued ever since.
Who once you started to get further along in the weightlifting, who was your first coach? Was it Artie? Was it Leo? Like who'd you really start to train under, or did you continue to go solo?
I went solo partly because at that time I had just opened up the gym when I really was. I started just lifting and not doing CrossFit at all around 2013, just as I opened up to Murder Pros. And I would go to these seminars with Leo Totten. I did Glenn Penley's seminar when he was in Brooklyn. Well, he wasn't in Brooklyn. He was sick, but he had coaches there. And so that was in, I don't remember, 2015, 2014. But I would do all these seminars to try to learn as much as I can on coaching. And I didn't have a coach until 2017 when I started lifting. I asked like Michael McKenna to help me out a little bit. So I worked for about a year and a half with him programming. But for the most part, I was always more interested in advancing other people than my own lifting. And I felt like I wanted to guinea pig myself to see if things would work, as opposed to just being an athlete. Like I was not going to be a good athlete. I knew that. I was going to learn the lifts. I was going to have fun learning the lifts. I was going to get it to push myself in competitions. But for the most part, the way I programmed for myself was to teach me what it was like if I was to give this program to someone else, or if I was going to try this, to live in their shoes.
It's always fun, as a coach experimenting with the programming or some new exercise that you find, and you're like, oh, this seems like it would benefit weightlifting. And then you get into it and you're like, oh, no, that won't work at all. What kind of experiments have you done where you're like, well, that was a mistake and I wish I didn't do that. And now I can't walk for 3 weeks.
Showing me how to do an adductor thing once. There's like he was like trying to show me like
good exercise. We were doing
it's a very good exercise,
and I like strained my adductor trying to demonstrate it.
That's always when it happens. It's when you're demoing something.
I was demonstrating how to like start in a sprint, and I like nearly paralyzed myself for like 2 days. That was fun.
That's right. Yeah.
You gotta warm up to coach sometimes.
Yeah, it's
everybody needs to warm up.
It was always difficult for me, doing my training earlier in the day and then having to teach several classes throughout the rest of the day in the evening. And okay, hey everybody, here's a handstand push-up. Let me show you. Then by the time you get to the last one, your arms are shaking, and then the next day you're like, why am I in so much pain? Well, it's because you've been doing stuff all day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember
What
days and then trying to demonstrate an air squat and just like
Yeah. Well, after you've already done your sets of 5 on the back squat and your legs are feeling it. Or even worse, a couple days down the road when you really don't want to be doing anything. What was the first interaction between two of you? Sara and Kurt here. I think Sara has mentioned when she joined the gym, but
she came and bombed out.
Wow.
Didn't make her
yeah,
jerks.
I mean, I think it was like the second. Yeah, I know that's a recurring theme. But yeah, I mean, I would come to Murder of Crows Opens to compete. I mean, second, maybe third. I don't know. It's been a while. So I mean, I went just to compete, and then I would start refereeing, and then ultimately when Kurt opened up the weightlifting side of the gym, because I was on, I guess, an email list of people who had been at meets in the past. Like, oh, and I also had I took my L2 at Murder of Crows with Mike McKenna. But so I was always kind of around there. But then yeah, when he opened up the weightlifting hall side of the business, a blueprint went out like a little diagram of all of the equipment and how it was going to be. It wasn't even built yet. And I was like, sign me up. When do I come? Like, I will take 2 trains to come out there and be there in this gym space. And so I would see him at the gym a bunch, obviously. And then I had a different coach at the time who was doing my programming for me. And then I mean, pretty much, so I think it was like, I don't know, what was that Reno meet, 2017?
Yeah.
The first AO series. Yeah. So then at that point, like in January, so like 3 months before the meet, I was like, Kurt, can you do my programming? He was really thrilled about having no
Uh,
time to set me up for a meet. It was great.
I bet Kurt gets messages like that all the time. But hey, that's why he's coach of the year. He follows through, and he got you all set. Kurt, you've
It is.
touched on it a little bit. When you mentioned forming the gym, can you go a little bit deeper into starting Murder of Crows? What made you? I mean, this is no easy task. Starting just a club, a gym, but in Brooklyn, New York, I can't even imagine. I got to go last year at the Murder Crows Open for the first time, and I probably circled the block at least 10 times before I called Sara, and I'm like, Sara, it was also my first time driving in New York City of any capacity. So, and not just like driving by to Long Island. I mean, like we're in it, and there's cars and bikes. I won't even begin with the whole bike thing, but yeah, it's tell us the origin story of the barbell club and the gym.
Sure. So the gym I was actually I was working at a wine store of all places. So I was working at a wine store. I had just been, I left with my master's degree in political science. I left doctoral studies. I was like not sure if I was going to pursue political science anymore, academia or any of that stuff. So I was coaching CrossFit classes, coaching CrossFit gymnastics classes, trying to start a little bit of barbell stuff, and working at a wine store. And I remember thinking, hey, I could do this. I could run a gym. I could figure it out. I could program for this. This is something that I want to do. So I talked to the owner of the wine store, and he's like, yeah, I'll be interested. And I talked to another one of the one of the bartenders, Dan McCarthy, because he owned a wine store and a wine bar across the street. So at the wine bar, I talked to him. He was also coaching at the same place I was at CrossFit 718. And I said, I think I can do this. So I put together a business plan. And I said, I need, $50,000. And I can come up with a certain amount of money, but I'm going to be this amount of short. And I'd like you guys to jump in with me. And so I convinced Aaron Hans, the owner of the wine store, to essentially give us his line of credit because the wine store, to be able to use for the gym. And so we opened up the gym in Crown Heights here in Brooklyn and had our first CrossFit class in 2013. But as soon as we opened, we set up with 3 platforms. It was a 3,000 square foot just warehouse. There's no heat. There's nothing. We had to get in like these little blow heaters, but the first winter we didn't even have any heaters. But we created 3 platforms, all with Penlay plates and Penlay bearing bars. So I tried to splurge a little bit at that point on that. And it was successful. We did very well. We quickly had a lot of people. We kept on doubling in size each month. And then by the end of that first year, I had done a weightlifting competition, and I was like, I'm going to start up a club. So we started up Murder of Crows 2014, I believe, sometime around January 14. So just almost about 1 year of just having like a barbell hall, but no real weightlifting program. And we had classes. So we had weightlifting classes, and then we had open gym. And so it was just like technique days twice a week. We do a snatch day, we do a clean and jerk day to just drill the technique and teach people kilos too, because they would have to lift in kilos if they did it.
Always fun.
Yeah, we got good at math. And then we really started exploding the barbell program when we essentially got bought out of that facility. They wanted to tear it down and put up condos. and I said, hey, I have a lease, and this business is going really well, and I want to keep doing this. The only way I would agree to this is if you pay for us to move into a new facility that's bigger, because at that point we're out of space, but in the same neighborhood. So we shopped around and we found our current location that you saw. At that time, there was no roof on the building. The roof had collapsed. So we convinced the landlord to fix the roof, which is nice. Said it wouldn't work without it. And then we went ahead. They gave us money to flatten the floors. They gave us money to do X, Y, and Z to be able to make it work, because we had no capital at that point. We just, we barely in business.
It's perfect timing that they came around and that building just happened to be there and they were willing to do all that. I mean, of course it's worth it for them to build those condos.
Oh yeah, they made money out of those condos, but it helped us out in the sense that we got this really big facility that I never would have had the revenue to be able to afford at that stage of the game. And at that point, we were one of the largest. We went from one of the smaller gyms to one of the larger gyms in the area. And we immediately dedicated, at that time, we only had half the building. We dedicated one side of the big main hall to what we call now the side area as 5 lifting platforms. There was no lights in that area at that time, so it was very dark lifting. But we had five platforms, and we had about 3 to 5 athletes working on each of those platforms. And at that point, we moved away from classes to more of an actual weightlifting program. So we'd have our team program that everyone was working with, and we started encouraging people to do local competitions. So then we did a lot of our competitions at York Barbell, the Barbell Museum there, where they have that great facility. So we'd go down there once or twice a year to compete.
I think they just did a meet there, right? Over the weekend.
They did the Hall of Fame. Yeah, the one that like Hampton went to. Yeah.
That's very, very cool. Kurt, I want to backtrack a little bit. I have so many additional questions. First, the wine store. I'm a white wine person. So I'm a white wine person. So, but I know there's some people out there that enjoy their reds. Number one recommendation, red and white.
It really depends on what you're having. If you're going to have it alone, or you're going to have it by yourself, and your price point. So,
all right. Let's talk about the price point here, like a $9.99 to $12.99 type of range here.
All right.
A weightlifting budget.
Yeah. It's a $10 bottle of red and white. So in that case, you really, you're just going for something that's been stored properly, and it's not too bad. You're not going to get a lot of personality with the red, especially on the red side, because it's a little more expensive.
Oh
no, wait.
Am I still there? All right. Sarah's still here.
Oh no.
We'll get Kurt back in a second. It freeze framed on a nice frame though.
Yeah, it did. It's not like a weird thing.
deep in thought. Sarah, are you a wine drink? Oh, Kurt's back.
Glitch.
It's a glitch. Yeah. Wait, go back. Wait. Oh no.
It happens. Technology.
Yeah, I don't do. He knows this too. Like I don't do wine because I am, for whatever reason, highly allergic. So it's like I can have it and enjoy it, but then I just like get congested like immediately, and then I can't taste or breathe for the rest of the night.
Really? Is that white?
I've had
white
recommendations. It used to just be red, and now it is also white. And I've had, actually, JP's wife has Vanessa Nicoletta is like very into wine as well, and she has suggested some things to me, but I'm like too afraid because I'm like, it's my day is ruined, my night is ruined, whatever, if I have it and I'm congested for the rest of the day. So I don't even mess with it anymore, unfortunately. I'm a whiskey person. So
all right. So it's not just alcohol that does it. It's maybe it's like the sugar in the wine or something.
Tannins or something. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Something with grapes, I guess.
I have a lot of wine here because during the holidays, people give me, they buy their coach and whatnot a bottle of wine, but I don't drink it. So I just keep amassing wine every holiday
Oh
season, and I
wow.
have like 7 bottles in a cupboard, and I guess I should re-gift them. That's probably like what I should do because they've just been sitting there forever. And people get
Hmm.
me gift cards to the liquor store. I'm like, do you people think like you don't stress me out that much that I'm drinking all the time?
That is a thing though. It's like I also know from like gifting from work, it's just like there have been, it used to be the standard for like our business to like we would just get like bottles of wine delivered to our clients. And it's like there was actually one client of ours, like one person that worked at HBO who was like sent it back and was like, I do not
Wow.
drink. I appreciate the gesture, but and I was like, all right, that was a little aggressive, like just give it to somebody else or something like that, but like also noted, like now I know that that's actually not necessarily an appropriate drink because not everybody drinks. So yeah,
Wow. Yeah, that's intense sending it back. I never would have
I know
thought
it was a
about that.
little yeah, but cool,
Like I would have
whatever.
gone
It was
the route you just said, like, all right, I'll either just keep it in a cupboard for years and years until eventually it gets gifted to someone or just gift it to someone right away.
Or you could save it for if there's ever a banquet at States, maybe you can use them, bring them. I don't know, who knows.
Yeah, yeah. That'll be my way to offload them. Just bring them there. The hotel
Kurt
might wonder
says
why
he is
we're not purchasing
that's fair.
enough alcohol too.
He says he's resetting his router, so he'll be back
Cool.
in a
All
minute.
right. All right. Well, we'll keep it going. And now I've learned
Yeah.
the art of editing YouTube videos too. So I can splice
Oh,
this in. And now I'm coughing. Hold on a
nice.
second.
Hold on, I'm gonna get.
Let me mute myself.
That's like.
I see. I
Oh, I'm gonna click that. Okay. But yeah, before I had like also New York City problems, I had my street. I live on. There's like a police station like a block away, and it's just like sometimes when we're on calls, like, and it'll be like a board of directors meeting or this, like, just police trucks, like fire trucks, like everything, just so loud all the time. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna mute myself now so nobody has to listen to that. So
the
yeah.
sounds of New York City. You know,
Yeah.
when I've stayed down there at my sister's apartment, there is something about just the noise. Like I like sleep like a rock. Like it doesn't keep me up at all. Like it's really weird. Like there'll be cars honking. You can hear the driving back and forth, and then sometimes the sirens. But I only ever remember sleeping just deeply down in New York City.
Wow, I'm impressed. That is not the case for me. I
The
have to wear
the
earplugs. Like, I mean, I used to live on like a super crazy busy block that's like, I mean, it's like it was like party central, like, whatever, 28 years ago when I first moved here on St. Mark's Place. And it's like I lived above a pizza place, and it was like it was just crazy all the time. So it's like I just learned to have a fan for white noise, and I wear earplugs still to this day because now it's just like I need the sensation of the like filled in eardrums kind of situation. So it's like it's
yeah.
bad, but my husband doesn't love it. That's all.
You know what I've thought about doing? Getting the like a face mask that blocks out the light. I've
Oh, I
I've
have that too.
purchased I bought one before, but I always wake up and it's always off. Like I don't know what's happening.
Oh,
So I don't maybe I need to just get a better one, more secure one.
yes. There's like it's called a manta sleep mask, and it's like I've had one that's like a blackout one, and it's the best thing ever. And I think I actually saw that Hampton Morris uses it. Like I think he like posted that he like puts it on the planes or something like that. It's the best thing.
Good
Highly
idea.
recommended.
Good
Sponsor
idea.
me, Manta.
Well, welcome back, Kurt.
I'm
Hi.
back. Sorry, I had to reset the internet, I guess.
No problem. These are normal occurrences in the Zoom era we're in now on internet's dropping, things like that.
But go back to the wine. Pick up from
Oh,
there.
I think we may have lost them again.
I thought he was just like very still. I'm like, oh,
He was very stoic, in the moment, deep in thought.
I mean, that's him for sure. So.
I mean, this is a great photo right here. Like if this was just a photo.
Oh,
Oh,
there you
wait a
are.
minute.
Maybe. Let's see what he's doing.
Oh, something's happening here. Um, now we got a black screen. Is that a WWE glass?
It is. It's a. Can you see? It's Dolph Ziggler,
Okay,
who is
very
now
cool.
gone. I think he's with TNA or something, like whatever the heck it's called now. But it says, what does it say? Stealing the show and your girlfriend.
Very nice, very nice. He was after my time of really watching it, so I don't know too
Oh,
much about Dolph
he's
Ziggler.
great. He is great.
Outside of
Oh, he's a
I do
boxer?
think he was a part of the Spirit Squad or something like that with a bunch of
Yes, he
other
was.
guys.
He was. That was like his first gig. Yeah, for sure.
And I saw an interview of him saying how he would watch MMA fights and like death scenes in movies to mimic them like falling, after they got KO'd. So if he
Oh,
would like get super kicked by Shawn Michaels, he would have a fancy way of falling. So he'd study how people fell in film and also professional fights.
see, I knew there was a reason I like that guy.
Yeah, pretty cool guy. Speaking of cool guys, Kurt, welcome back again.
Going on with my Optimum internet right now, but
All
it
right.
says my
Well,
connection is very unstable.
uh-oh.
I'm gonna try
Cool.
switching to a hotspot, see if that actually does the trick. So bear with me. Let's see if Verizon does better than Optimum.
Cool, cool. I have Hotspot too on my phone, but I don't know how to use it. I don't get it. Maybe someday I'll try. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Sally
maybe I
had she wanted us to use that. Like at the New Jersey meet, she was like trying to get me to use her hotspot. And I was like, I've never done that. That is unfamiliar. I am not interested in doing that in the middle of a
yeah,
meeting.
at least not for the first time. It'd be a,
No.
a stressful thing.
All right, I think I did it. I switched over to a hotspot. So
Okay.
Awesome. Well, we'll welcome back, and we will we'll pick off right where we left off. So weightlifters budget, white wine, red wine. We the people want to know. Not necessarily James McDermott, but I'm sure people out there.
I'll go Vino Verde. I think it's referred to as green wine, meaning it's like young, newer wine. It can be light and refreshing. You can do it's most commonly white, but there's red varietals out there that they do, and you can chill it if it's a red, and it's just nice if it's like a hot day. It's a Portuguese wine. And that's kind of my father's side of the family, all Portuguese. So it's a nice, simple wine that's really, you can't go wrong with it. It's hard to screw that one up.
Very cool. That's a white wine.
It's white and they do red too. It's a region in Portugal that makes this in a style of wine. But
Awesome.
it's a young wine, so it's not a lot of complexity to it, but it's really refreshing and nice.
Now let's talk a big wine. Like you win the state championships, you're gonna party, you're gonna, all these things, or you have a big day at nationals. All right, we can splurge a little bit. Like, what's a celebratory like big wine here?
Yeah, so I mean, at that point, like if you want to splurge, you got to figure out. There's a few major regions. Like I was chatting with Sarah recently about picking out a good quality wine for as a birthday
For
gift.
JP Nicoletta's birthday. Yes.
So we of course with JP Nicoletta had to do something that was Italian, and so there is the northern from Piedmont region. There's Barolos and Barbaresco. There's kind of like the two big wines that are known in Italy. Barolo is sometimes referred to as the king of wines. So these are wines that you need to age. They need to be old, like 10, 20 years is good. So it's hard to find a good price point on that. Obviously, if you're finding wines that are really old and referred to as the king of wines, but if you're willing to splurge, like a Barolo can be a beautiful, beautiful, elegant wine. And then I think we went with an Aglianico, though, which is more of it's a grape that comes out of, I believe it's central, more southern Italy. And there's a few different regions that produce that. And that one you can get at a better price point, and it's kind of rich, comes from volcanic soil, a little smoky and complex. It's good. So we went with that because it fit JP's personality.
Very
I
cool.
never asked him how it was.
I never thought about that pairing wine with your personality, Makes sense though. My other question, going back a little bit, is why crows? So, it's a very unique name for your gym, awesome logo, the birds, it's everywhere. So like what's is that your favorite animal? Like what's the story behind that?
Well, I do like the 1990s The Crow. That was a good film. I really enjoyed that, especially the music to that. But no, the old name of the neighborhood of Crown Heights was Crow Hill. Now, it was originally a free Black community, and we're talking pre-Civil War. And so you had these various communities that popped up in central Brooklyn area around Crown Heights. Weeksville is kind of the one that's very well known now because they've actually restored kind of a full farm stand from there. Crow Hill was kind of referred to as the general region. And there's some undertones of maybe it's racism, maybe it's just because the crows and the farms there, but it did have a historical name there. And it's kind of an interesting history because you have these communities where they were allowed to vote. Everyone was allowed to vote if they owned property by New York State. So you started having these setups where people were able to own their own home and have voting rights. And so there's a good history there. Now, the name was changed to Crown Heights in 1910, 16, when they put the subway through Eastern Parkway. And they didn't want, and they paved Crown Street at that time. And they didn't want to associate it with the Black community that actually lived there. They wanted to gentrify it. So they went with Crown Heights. But when I moved to the neighborhood in 2010, there was this Crow Hill Community Association that was trying to bring back the name. They want to point to the history of the Black community living in their area, point to the history of the free Black community. And so they were actually encouraging various businesses to adopt this name. There used to be a Crow Hill Bistro. There used to be quite a few named businesses on it. They went under 2015, I think. 2016 is when they stopped working. But up to that point, it was referred to as Crow Hill. So we went with Murder of Crows, largely because Murder of Crows is an old Victorian term meaning a group of crows. A parliament of owls is another one, a congress of, I think it's eagles.
I love all of those.
It's like this very poetic fashion. So I always tried to lean into like the community aspect of Murder of Crows, but we go to national meets and it just says murder, murder.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you can see on the team. They don't have Murder of Crows.
I think I have it.
Yeah, so you can see.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there it is. You ever get questions about that, Sarah? You're walking around, it just says murder all over your t-shirt.
I mean, this shirt got made because we all were like, "That's awesome!" And then like one of our members, like Nick Pizzonia, like made it for us, and everybody was like, "I need that shirt."
That's
Pretty
awesome.
awesome.
And this answers a lot because I know looking through old competition history for New York State, I would always see the Crow Hill Open, and I was like, I wonder why they called it like that. And then I just assumed because the gym was Murder of Crows that it was just a crow theme thing, but I didn't know the historical context behind it. So that's pretty cool.
No, our first name was, we were Crow Hill CrossFit when we first opened up. And I remember a member of the Crow Hill Community Association was like, "That's so awesome. I'm so glad you guys are adopting this name." And then, the neighborhood changed and people associated Crow and Crow Hill with a lot of negative connotations. And so they didn't know the history of the neighborhood. They just associated it with Jim Crow laws. So we kind of stepped back a little bit and went with Murder of Crows to have a little which kind of forces you to look a little bit deeper into the history as opposed to just being like, oh, I'm upset. And then you
It's a nice
realize,
balance you got now.
yeah. So you look into the history and you realize, okay, this is a community of free Black community that was part of here, and this is the history of what's going on. So that's kind of what we changed. We also de-affiliated from CrossFit at the time, so we had always been, our barbell club had always been Murder of Crows, because it made sense. All our competitive teams, we always called them Murder of Crows. So like when we had CrossFit team competitions, we'd call ourselves Murder of Crows. Our powerlifting team was Murder of Crows. So it made sense. Because at that point you were a team, and so we adopted it for the full gym in 2020, I guess.
Very cool. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It streamlines everything. It makes everything nice and clear, who we are, what we are, and you have a great history. It's always fun hearing about the histories behind all the gyms. You learn so much about where people started from and what the meaning behind things are. I'm not sure how often you get asked, why murder of crows or what's that mean, but it's pretty cool to get that out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, fun fact, we're actually technically not allowed to be called Murder of Crows is doing business. We can't be Murder of Crows LLC in New York
Oh,
State.
because of the name, like in the business.
Because of murder?
In the name. So our official LLC is MOC, Barbell and Fitness LLC.
Wow. Okay.
I have a second LLC called the M of Crows Barbell LLC.
All the things we're learning about business, you have to have trusted partners, 'cause, I mean, you gotta trust them and they gotta trust you if they're signing on to, or you're signing on to their line of credit and whatnot. And yeah, I didn't know that there were such restrictions, but I guess it makes sense on, what the business name can be. They gotta draw a line somewhere, even though murder doesn't seem, I don't know, like there's all kinds of business names out there with like kill and other things. So I wonder if they have the same situation.
They probably
Yeah.
filed some state that doesn't care. Maybe I should have filed in Delaware.
Yeah, there you go. Sara, where are we going next? Now that we know how Kurt got started and a little bit more of the origin of the club and the gym.
Sure. Well, we already covered a little bit of what coaching means to you. Maybe we'll come back a little more to that later. But here, I had brought this up as saying maybe we didn't want to talk about this for time purposes, and Kurt got very upset that I was not going to be bringing this up. So, Kurt, how do you teach beginners when they're starting weightlifting?
Very important topic.
Yeah, so,
I was like, everybody should just be
on the
teaching
list.
USA
Like, I
L1.
don't think anyone wants to hear that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's an important topic. It's like, oh, it's the USAW L1 progression. I'm like, well, not really, but there's been so many.
Take it away.
Progressions on the level one a few times. It's a progression by committee, and I think I wasn't even sure what the last one is, but some of my athletes just recently got their L1 and they were chatting about it, like, oh, we do the progression this way. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm a top down type of guy, as I think most coaches are, especially these days. With that being said, I do like to try to get the person to the floor and doing full lifts as quickly as possible, at least one exposure to it. So I used to do top down and I would just keep people on the high hang or above the knee, something like that for quite some time, a couple months before they've learned where their power position is. And I remember from the early days of learning from CrossFit is like, you wouldn't teach person the full snatch, you just have them do the power snatch initially, until they like got more comfortable with the overhead squat. And I realized that you kind of create this block of not teaching the full movement. So I try to do both. So my beginners program, we do the learning progression. It's top down. I teach the person how to receive the bar. So they're doing behind the neck presses, behind the neck snatch grip, push presses. They do the overhead squats. then they do some like snatch balance, try to play with some snatch balances to try to quickly teach them the full movement. And then in their training, their beginners program, we have one high hang and then we have one full snatch during the week. So they can practice screwing up from the floor and missing that power position. And then the next week, it starts off with, this is the position you missed. This is the high hang, this is the hip position, it's your power position. So I think it's important to get people to do the movement, the full movement, as quickly as possible, and to have them be able to practice it and have quite a bit of exposure to that, while at the same time you're breaking it up into these segmented pieces to teach
I agree. If you think about it, it's like you wouldn't do it any other way with other movements, right? Like if you're teaching someone how to do a push-up, well, hold on, we gotta get like blocks, and you only go down to this level, and you only hold the plank and do stuff. You'd like, let's do a full push-up, and of course, we'll tweak things along the way, and we can modify it. But sometimes, like the holy snatch comes around, or the clean, or the jerk, and people want to like treat it differently than other movement. And then I don't know if you've experienced this, athletes start to mentally treat it different than everything else. And then there's that block you're talking about. It's like you tell someone to squat, all right, they can go down and up. And of course, as a coach, you're going to modify and improve their movement, but you wouldn't have them not squat. It's just it's a weird thing that happens in weightlifting and progressions, and just, I guess, getting stuck in the weeds, for a lot of people.
Yeah, you got. I'm a holistic type of perspective where I want, they need to have that exposure, what it's to feel like, to be able to know what they're doing when we do segment. I think segments are great, and like teaching progressions are wonderful, and like teaching from the top and giving lots of exposure and practice there is really great. But if you're not teaching them also and giving them a chance to practice the full snatch, they'll not be able to connect it, and their growth is going to be slowed. So
Do you
not
think
slow.
that that's because coaches are nervous about their athletes failing, and instead of giving them an opportunity to learn by letting the bar fall one way or the other, or just not quite connecting with it?
I think you said it with like the holy grail, like it's the snatch. This is the most complex human movement ever invented. And it's like, is it? It's complex. Don't get me wrong. It is, a very complex movement. It's the most complex thing you can do with a barbell. It's a, half an Olympic sport. As I like to say, it is complex. But like if you put it on this pedestal, you're not going to be able to get them exposed to be able to make the mistakes, to be able to learn how their body moves. Um, I remember I don't remember who was telling me, but they're talking about, yeah, like you give the young kid the dowel and you put him in the corner and tell him to do 1,000 split jerks. And, you go over and you occasionally like cue him this way or that way, but you can't be sitting there like babying them through the learning process, because they won't learn. They need to have the freedom to, as you said, make those mistakes, to fail and to be successful. If they're so, otherwise you may, if you're teaching them from the high hang from a long period of time, they may be able to pick up that high hang quicker initially. But their development of the snatch, in my opinion, is going to be slowed down later on. Now, if you're starting someone from the high hang and from the floor, they're going to do both kind of poorly for a while, but they're going to get better in the long run. So I think it's like a short-term inconvenience, maybe for the coach, for everyone to look at what's going on with that hot mess. Um, maybe make it an empty bar, make it light enough that it's being safe, but they're going to get further than if they've been sitting there with the training wheels for, months.
Yeah. Not to mention, you're as the coach trying to keep them engaged and keep coming. If you're like
Yeah.
James, it's going to be 6 months on a PVC pipe, and then you're on this bar and that bar. Like we've heard the story of Shane Hammond, who spent all that time with just a dowel getting better, but he was already strong. He needs to do what he needed to do. But for someone just starting out, they're like, I feel like I'm getting nothing out of this, and then they might lose interest.
Yeah, no, I'm balancing, like you do have to look at the athlete and look at them as, especially I'm a gym owner. I'm a coach. I want to coach sports movement and get that athlete, be successful in competition, but I also run a business. And I want to make sure that I know that If they're not engaged, they're not going to be there. They're not going to get better in the sport. um, Now, that doesn't mean I have them PRing or 1 rep maxing or anything like that. It means that I say, hey, here's a little weight. Here's how we do the movement. Here's the training plates. Right now, I want you to focus on your squat and your pulls and your presses and things that where the learning curve on those are a little bit easier initially, and we can start getting you stronger and stronger. So I try to emphasize this is where you're going to see progress the quickest. In the snatch, the jerk, a little bit on the clean, but mostly the jerk and the snatch, progress is going to be a little bit slower on this. And once it comes, it's going to be great. Just bear with me, please.
That's important to tell people, like, expectations and time frame, especially with something that requires quite a bit of patience, especially well, actually all the time, but as a beginner, you really have to, embrace the tediousness of it, and so it's good that you let people know that. Do you have any kind of thing that you tell people when they start to kind of get down on it and they're like, Kurt, I don't know, like, it's just not clicking? Like, how do you get people through their mental hurdles on the lift?
I remember this was my wife, and we're doing a weightlifting camp with East Coast Gold, and this was like our first wedding anniversary, actually. So we got married, and that first wedding anniversary, we're like, let's do a weightlifting camp. And it was at Lake Placid, and we're at the Olympic Training Center up there, sleeping in
Is
the
she
dorm.
also like just as into it as you are?
She was, especially during then. She's a nurse practitioner now, so her career has like gotten her super busy, and she's a new mom with our 2-year-old, so that's kind of taken precedent as far as her training. But at the time, she was just as passionate, especially with the sport, and she thought it was awesome. And then they allowed us to stay in the same dorm at the Olympic Trains for our wedding anniversary. Um, but I was like, let's push the beds together. And Allie's like, my wife's like, no, I'm fucking tired. It's like we're doing 3 sessions a day. You stay over there. So it was a very romantic wedding anniversary. But in any case, she had asked one of the coaches, this was Jim Storch at the time, who was coaching and helping out up there. And he's from Ithaca, great guy. People know him. And then she was like, I want to be fast. I'm not as fast as everyone. Everyone's so much faster. He looked at it and was like, you haven't been doing it long enough to be fast. Like, you don't get good at this your first year, your first 6 months, or even your first couple of years. It takes, 4 6 years to even have some sort of proficiency on that lift, to be able to have that speed or to be able to get better at this. It's supposed to be hard. And so that's kind of what I tell people. This is supposed to be hard. This is supposed to take time. If it was easy, go do Zumba or something. This is training over years and years of time, and it requires and demands a certain level of work.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. Of course, sage wisdom from Jim Storch.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned you're a father now, and that's within recent years. How has becoming a father changed how you are as a coach? Are you more patient? Is your fatherly, characteristics coming out in your coaching? Like, what's different there, if anything?
I think the patience, dealing with like toddler meltdowns, makes you pretty patient.
And those never happen in the gym, right? Like toddler type meltdowns.
We have a saying: everyone cries in the gym. Everyone has had like the moment where they're either crying on the platform or they have to go take a second in the bathroom. Um, like if it takes years and years and years to get good at this, and you're working your tail off, you're going to have some emotion invested into that process. And, not every session is going to be great or fabulous or successful. You're not going to make that lift every time you attempt it. So
And hey,
yeah,
if you have those emotions, it means you care about it, right?
exactly. And I tell them I want to see those emotions. That's fine, and I give them the space to have that. But I think it's patience. I think that's the biggest. I mean, Sarah, you've known me pre and post Sunny, who's my toddler right now. I'd say that
Has
was
I'd agree.
I've always been pretty
I mean,
patient.
oh yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, yeah, that hasn't. I don't know. I think you've always given us that. Maybe sure, maybe it's a little more. Maybe I see or hear about a few more hugs from time to time. That used to be like a no on Kurt's list, but maybe a few more here and there. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't. I mean, we're going on how many years of working together, so it's like 7 plus, and it's like, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't stick around if I didn't think you had all of those good qualities of a coach. So
Couple more hugs.
that
yeah,
that's
see a few
awesome.
more hugs.
That's also when a coach's hug is so rare and so well achieved that it spreads around. Like I got one, I got one.
I think that's kind of what he always went for. Yeah, yeah.
You can't just give those out willy-nilly. It's got to be earned. Kurt has your son. He's so the cool thing is that I see all the time. People have a kid, and that kid is in the gym all the time, just seeing stuff that I didn't see when I was growing up, and you may not have. And next thing you know, they're picking up a PVC pipe or something, and they're just going to grow up a different way than a lot of us do. Are you already starting to see those things where he's like squatting and watching people and like taking in this health and fitness and strength mindset?
He's like he has a little toy barbell, so he's definitely done some clean and jerks, and he's really into throwing the barbell. So maybe he's a John Gordon fan. I'm not sure.
Nice.
But funny enough, we have with a flywheel here, and we're trying to find different ways because we were getting so busy. I was getting so busy with all the different things, going to school again, and then my wife was so busy with the kid. So I have a K-Box Eccentrics flywheel that we have here at the apartment. And if you don't know what those are, it's an inertial device where you pull on it, spins a wheel, and then which creates the resistance, and then it pulls you back down with the weight of the wheel and the centrifugal force of the wheel. So they use it as in the on the space shuttle as a way to create resistance training for athletes or for astronauts in this case. So we were using this, and it's a little platform. You do like squats on it, and so Sunny's turn, and so you have to like click him up to it, and he does squats. He can't make the wheel spin or anything, but he'll try to do the squats on it. He'll try to do high pulls with the handle. But
That's
then we're
awesome.
like, it's mommy's turn, it's daddy's turn. It's like, no, Sunny's turn. The exercise equipment.
I feel like we're getting the secrets of Murder Crows for the team. We need astronaut type training. Everyone's gonna, what is it, Tang? You're gonna see Tang in all the gyms around New York State now.
I could go for some of that. I used to love that.
Oh, yeah. I used to use it all the time for my intercarb
Oh, that's so much better than Gatorade. That's smart.
protein, and that's what I would have during my workouts.
Where
Is
can you
Tang.
even buy Tang? Like probably just online, right?
I bought it online.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think now. Like that's just not something you're gonna see in the grocery store down the road.
No.
Very cool. Sarah, where are we going next?
Um, okay. So how do you define success, Kurt? Like, let's say, I don't know. I don't know, James. Were we thinking for him or for athletes or for both?
I would say as a coach, but it would be good to know both coach and athlete.
Yeah, I was thinking I saw that question. I was thinking about it. I have maybe a little issue with the word success. I feel like partly because I think it's a process. Like it's always ongoing. There's always something you can improve. Not saying you shouldn't celebrate your achievements, but I find like, oh, I'm successful. What else are you gonna what are you gonna do next? I feel like if you say you're successful, you're giving up on achieving more. And I think, I tell my athletes like the bar can always hold more weight. Maybe I don't think it can do 300 kilos. No, it can barely do 300 kilos. But in any case, you can always put more weight on the bar. So success to me is when you're done. So you look back, and I do think you need to look back and celebrate your accomplishments when things go well, when you achieved a particular goal, or maybe you train 4 times, 5 times that week, and you made all your reps and sets, which is huge. Those are great achievements, but I find like success is something that I want my athletes to be a little unsatisfied. I want myself to be a little unsatisfied. If I'm truly like satisfied on my success, then like I'm probably going to retire, and I might not be long for the world after that. It gets boring.
I like that. So essentially your definition of success is not enough.
Exactly.
I like
That
it.
feels that is like very much a weightlifter's psyche. So I think that works. I mean, all of us are. That's that's what draws us to the sport, right? Like we said, you fix one thing. Like you're like, oh, my snatches are so great, but your clean and jerks start to drop off, and then you start it's like you said, a marathon, not a sprint.
With weightlifting, what's the highest pinnacle of success for most athletes and even coaches to some degree is the Olympics. And I think it was Michael Phelps's documentary where he was really showcasing the amount of depression that occurs after this so-called pinnacle of success, because there's nothing else you can do except maybe do it again. And age is going to clamp that down pretty quickly. So if you define success as achieving this one thing and you achieve it, the rest of your life gets pretty boring, unless you can redefine success to continue to push yourself for something else. I mean, we saw Tom Brady retiring, like it took him a while, number of years being so successful, and you can see him trying to pivot to figure out how is he going to define success now after sports, and you see a lot of athletes dealing with that. So I don't want my athletes to fall necessarily victims to that and define their success solely with one thing. And
And that makes sense for you as a coach too. I mean, you're a national level coach in USA Weightlifting, but of course, you want to be international coach, senior international coach, and keep getting better for your athletes, and then getting involved on the officiating side. Local ref, national ref, then Cat 2, and then now Cat 1. You wouldn't be doing all those things and taking all those seminars and courses and even going back to school if that wasn't your definition of success. So this is all making a lot of sense. And with that,
Yeah.
you've accomplished so much on your journey to the unachievable success. How do you set and achieve goals? It's everybody has different processes, and you probably have a lot of different types of goals. Your research, coaching for the gym. I'm sure there's goals for the gym. So how do you go about just plotting it all out?
I mean, it should be no surprise that I want to overemphasize process goals as opposed to these outcome goals. Um, Now, I like outcome goals. Don't get me wrong. I want to achieve a degree. I want to satisfy my jerk, my thesis, right? My master's thesis. I want to achieve international coach, which is, I guess, the next step. But for me, it's the process goals, which are the ones that need to be celebrated, and they're the ones that you have the control over for the most part. Um, I don't know. I'm going to continue to coach my athletes to the best of my abilities and to learn as much as I can to help them improve. Is that going to result in me achieving a goal of becoming an international coach? Maybe. It might not. I might not be able, I might have the greatest plan and action to get that goal, but the athlete misses, bombs out, or somehow the rules change at the last minute and they're not able to compete, or the sport disintegrates into a whole bunch of different federations,
Life
or
happens.
World War VII or whatever we're on right now. All those things are very real possibilities. But focusing and really highlighting the accomplishments of the process goals of learning how better to monitor the fatigue of my athletes, how to improve someone's back squat 1 rep max. This particular athlete that's dealing with a chronic knee issue from previous training. How do I deal with this athlete that has good talent but doesn't have the strongest work ethic? Those types of achieving those goals as part of the process, even if I don't accomplish an international coach, achieving those small process goals is something I do have better control over. And those are the things that'll set me up and make possible maybe international coach. But even if they don't, it's okay. I've accomplished other things. So.
International coach in the end, it's a title. It's maybe you get a certificate or just an email, but it doesn't, it can't even begin to account all that led up to it and all that you gave athletes and all that they gave to you along the way. You may have athletes that never become international level, but they become quote international level in life, just through weightlifting and coming to the gym. Maybe they get a job promotion and because they were a little stronger, and or maybe they get a raise because they have the courage now to ask for one because they've been through grueling sets of squats in your gym, or they got just advice from you. The barbell makes us stronger for life. So it's like those are fun things that we can all try to attain. But if you never get there, it's just a bunch of words on a piece of paper that most people will never see, unless you're one of those people that like you got it pinned right here as senior international coach on your shirt. It's just a fun thing to think about.
Yeah, I mean the process of getting there is going to make you a better person. Like the end result it is what it is.
Well, it's like you give me a squat program. I'm not guaranteed to set a personal record at the end of it, but I will get better in so many ways in the 12 weeks or however long it was. Just even the repetition of coming to the gym. Maybe I'm that athlete that doesn't have a good work ethic, and then you kind of pick up on like, well, maybe I'm not digging all the stuff we're doing. So you give me that one carrot, and then it starts to get me consistent, and then I'm seeing progress in different ways, on my other lifts and stuff. But just because I didn't get even a 1 kilo PR on the squat at the end of it doesn't mean it was all a waste.
Exactly.
Very cool. We're digging deeper into the philosophical methods. Sara, what else can we learn here?
I mean, I think that's a good segue though into touching on like the technical official thing. I mean, I always am a person who's saying that like, we have progressed our way up the ladder, and it's like I always feel that has made me a better athlete, period. Like it's like I know the rules of the game. I know how, like that's why Kurt in a way has bestowed upon me the the ability to be the meet director for the Murder of Crows meets, because it's like I know my shit. So
Kurt's
but
like, I got
yeah,
enough to do. I need someone else to do that.
that's totally what happened, because it went from like, I mean, he would have like a few athletes to like coach at a meet or something like that, and now it's like forget it. Like he has Murder of Crows when we run meets. It's like way too many athletes in every session. There's no way he could do all of those things. But yeah, although he'd probably argue he could. But anyway.
And I mean, we have like right here on the call, 2 Category 1 IWF techno officials from the same club. I mean, not in New York State. I don't think there's any other instance of that right now. So I think that maybe speaks to your culture a little bit too, right?
Well, that was something when we did our first competition. We did 1 or 2 competitions, and then I wanted all the club to become referees and technical officials. And so this was like when you needed to convince another national technical official to give you the test. So you have to convince them to give you the practical test, the actual exam, and then they have you do a practical test, like running the meet. So I remember talking to the Metropolitan at that time to say, hey, I'd like my club. I have about, at that time we had maybe 7 or 8 people that were interested in learning how to become officials. And I said, can we do this? And they're like, well, we can give it the practical, we can do the written exam. And the Metropolitan Championship is the next day, but we're not sure if we'd be able to accommodate you to do the practical. And so I was like, I called up Leo and I was like, Leo Todd, and I was like, I have 7 or 8 people that want to become referees. Can we do that at your next competition? And he said, yes. So I took my club, we rented a van and we called it the murder van, and we drove down out of Brooklyn, the middle of nowhere in York, Pennsylvania. And like, we ended up running the meet and we all became officials. We all learned, did all the jobs, marshaling, assistant marshaling, sitting in the chair, and speaking, though I refuse to speak. I don't like speaking. But like, everyone became officials. And then so when we started running competitions ourselves, we had people that had that background, and it became part of, we had the expectations, unwritten and unsaid, that you become an official and you also do a competition. You may not like officiating, so you don't do it again. That's fine. And you may not like competing, and that's fine. And you don't want to do it again. That's fine too. But it's part of learning those aspects of the sport. And I think Sarah's right. You become, knowing the rules inside and out is extremely helpful. But also the connections you make with other technical officials are very helpful. Because if you know all the technical officials, when you walk over to the marshal table, they notice that and they will make that change quicker. If you notice a mistake that might be made and you say, hey, this mistake, they take you more seriously. And they double check to see if there was a mistake. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to take your word for it, but they'll double check because they know that you're also an official and you know what the rules are. And then you also know kind of like the ins and outs of what's happening in the actual competition behind the scene. Is this platform going to move to this platform? Are they going to have how many warm-up platforms? What times is this open? Just the idiosyncrasies of these large national meets, of how they're run, because you're on the technical official chat. So they're saying, hey, we're running late here, we're running early here. And this is just all useful information to help put your athlete into position. Now, I don't need my athlete looking at that. I'll look at it for them.
Oh, the TO chat.
But...
I think that's, that it makes a lot of sense, and it's all fantastic. Just from a coaching perspective, I've seen so many, I'm sure you guys have too, so many like coaches going to just even a local meet, but also like the Arnold or something like that. And they're making errors that if they just, took the local ref test, I don't think they'd be making those errors if they just knew the basics of the rules. And then it's always difficult when like they're surprised and it's like, I'm sorry, Kurt, you can't make a change. You didn't make a declaration in the first 30 seconds. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, your lifter actually has to go lift now. They have 20 seconds left and they don't understand. And it's like, man, like one of the rule books out there, I understand not reading it, often, but at least immersing yourself in the process to learn how, the stuff is made, if you will, and that will help a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. And knowing when the clock's going to change, if it's going to be a 2 minute, if it's going to be a 1 minute, burning, like, we can talk about burning clocks.
All right, we have to talk about burning clocks. Kurt, I think I've stated on the podcast before that I don't feel bad about it. If someone does it to me, I probably deserved it. Or it's just it's part of the game. If we're at the local meet, just the one off, there's 10 people there. All right, we don't need to go hard at this. But if we're at nationals, anything like that, state championships, I'm concerned with my athlete. I don't even know what's happening. I'm just making changes. It's not even on purpose. I'm just going. What's your stance on this?
Yeah, I mean, I remember it was an A session, to be fair, and it was at Arnold's. It was like a 45 kilo women's A session, and my lifter ended up burning the clock of a, God, she must have been 9 or 11 year old, and I felt so bad because we were sitting on, I think I like we were sitting on the automatic on the clock, and like the lifter missed, and I realized it was coming to me, and that I was going to have to make the change for my athlete anyways because we were sitting on the automatic. And so like I ran over to the Marshall table really quickly, and I tried to put it in before the clock started, but the Marshall was too slow. I'm gonna blame the Marshall. It wasn't me. And so like I looked at the coach, I believe it was Courtney, and I was just like, I'm sorry. She's like, no, you tried. I saw. But so that gave me a reputation of burning clocks. But my general thinking is it's got to be for a medal, medal or money or something of that line. I'm not going to burn at a local meet for a medal though. I mean, for states, I probably would. For the MOC Open, we have cash prizes, so I want my athlete to win that money.
I mean, hey, we're all trying to win, right? If you throw the ball and I'm there, like I'm not going, oh nope, hold on, let him catch it. It's like, no, I'm grabbing that thing and I'm running.
The fun part is burning a clock that of a coach you're being friendly with. So you're chatting him up and like just yeah, I'm burning your clock right now.
Yeah, most of the time I've done it accidentally. Didn't even know I did it. I'm just like I said, I'm making a change. Um, I don't even know how people are like. I mean, I guess if you're that in tune with it, but most of the time, like if Sarah's my athlete, I'm like, all right, Sarah, like what happened out there? What's going? And then boom, I'm to the table, making sure nothing crazy happens there. And then someone's like, you burned my clock. I'm like, I had no idea.
All right. No, I mean, at this point, I usually know if I'm going to do it or not. The times that I mistakenly, I think one time I mistakenly, almost by instinct, did it. So we were like, I think it was like a B session or something like that, and we were making these changes, and I saw I saw the miss, and I was just about to like I was waiting for the clock to run so I could burn the clock. And then I like Muhammad, who's one of my assistant coaches, he looked at me, he's like, Coach, you don't need to burn the clock. I'm like, oh yeah, right. I'm sorry, automatic. So I had to apologize.
Hey, if it feels good to be bad sometimes.
It really did. Usually I do know it, and the only times that I make mistakes is just simply I'm either too late putting the change. I've been sitting on an automatic change, and I saw that someone missed or something like that, and I wasn't able to make the change quick enough. Those are the times that I've gotten in trouble with hurting someone when I didn't intentionally mean to hurt them.
Hey, I'm sure they rolled with the punches. It's all part of the sport. They got to be prepared and still go perform as well. So you've created some obstacles and challenges for other people, intentionally, unintentionally. What are challenges and obstacles that you've experienced in coaching, whether it be in the training hall or at competition? And how did you get through it?
I mean, I think some of the competition coaching, some of it's been rather, difficult when you're dealing with an athlete and they look at you randomly and they're like, I don't know how to snatch anymore. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be fun. Uh, so you watch just something happen and their confidence is completely blown. So you have to try to build them up, and you have, X, Y, and Z amount of time, or like an athlete put in, um, this was Nick Pizzonia. So it was at AO2, and the training wasn't going well. He wasn't consistently training. He was getting bombarded with other things in his life. And so he was going to the competition. This was in California because he had friends there and he wants to like hang out. But he was like, I'm not going to compete. So I knew he had an overblown entry total, and like we were going to adjust it if needed be. But we decided not to because he just wasn't going to compete. The night before, he got convinced to actually compete. So he had this incredibly overblown entry total where he was just not in shape. So he made this monumental effort, but we had no cards to play on that table. So that was difficult. I think in general, the one that's been most difficult is setting like the boundaries of, you know what it's like when you're coaching your athletes. I'm the first or the second person when someone's pregnant. They tell me.
Yeah.
They're going to have a surgery if they have a breakup, if they lost their job, if their parents or siblings or friends pass away. I'm almost, I'm one of those first people to know. I don't know if they're in a new relationship. They don't tell me that one, but they usually tell me if one ends. Um, so they trust you with everything. And so setting the boundaries of like, I'm wearing my coach's hat right now, I'm yours, or I'm wearing my business owner's hat now, I'm everybody's, so to speak, or I'm wearing my father hat right now, so I'm with my kid, and I can't be available to you right now. So setting those boundaries has been something that I've had to learn how to do, and I think I've gotten better at it.
It's very difficult because it can all blur together. You're the first person to get that text, on great news or bad news, and it's funny how a relationship ending or starting affects training in different ways. That's a whole other thing. But also, you're a business owner, and people need to understand that the you need to do things such as charging a membership and other things to make sure that the business is still there for them and the other athletes, and also for your family. Like, so it's like, but those things do blur together. And, like I've experienced this, I'm sure every person that works in a gym, where they forget that you need to eat too.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that you have needs and that it all needs to kind of work together. It can definitely be a difficult challenge.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, competitions is usually a point person that'll come and bring me a sandwich or something.
There you go. Sandwich person is always clutch.
Yeah, it really
Uh,
helps out.
uh, uh, Continuing furthering along this conversation of coaching, what
Mhm.
has been the most meaningful moment to you so far in everything that you've done with athletes and as a coach?
Yeah. So I think um, some of the more meaningful moments were really the athletes that have had some sort of adversity, either, it's an injury or something like that. Like we had a couple of athletes with like back and nerve issues, and it can take just a long time, and they have to be persistent with their recovery, they have to be persistent with their physical therapy work, they have to be consistent with their training, but they can't always do the full snatch, or they can't push those numbers. They have to do it in a really different way. So I
And
remember
they got
one
to
app.
see everybody else doing it, right?
Yeah, and that's so difficult. Um, so I've gotten better at that. We do some, because they want to work hard too. And if you're doing physical therapy and like, not saying it's all bird dogs and whatnot, but like some of the movement patterns cannot feel as taxing. Or if you have to go super light on the snatch for whatever reason, because of shoulder or back issue, it can be, trying to your ego and could feel like you're not doing anything or working out. So we've been playing around with the blood flow restriction stuff. So I think that helped with Catherine Fever, her recovery from meniscus. I saw her using it. But if for those who don't know, this essentially is a cough, like a blood pressure cough that kind of prevents some of the venous return from the working muscle. And there's a lot of good research to show that it contributes to hypertrophy, and even to some strength gains with trained and untrained folks. So we can, and it gives you a really, really crazy pump. It feels like that muscle is working and you're using a 5 pound dumbbell. Like it's uncomfortable, but it makes you feel like you're working. And so an athlete that's doing, you know, 30 kilos on the snatch and is used to snatching over 60, they can do some practice to keep the movement pattern. And then we, hit the blood flow restriction and create all that sense of working, sense of accomplishment, gets like really works the muscle hard. We increase their muscle size, we increase we avoid losing strength and losing muscle size, which often happens with injuries. And so as we can calm down and get recovery occurring, we can get them snatching and clean and jerking back up to that 60 so much quicker. And they're committed to it because they feel like they're working their tails off with the blood flow stuff. So we've
It's
had
always
some
amazing seeing
success.
people come back from injuries like that and they do the things that you're saying, all the little work, and they're like so much better, like
Yeah,
than when they
exactly.
originally got injured.
It'd be like 6 months of like small stuff to really get back, and then they come back to that competition platform and they PR and they're like, in tears, and you're in tears, and you're like, oh my gosh. So those little moments of always like people really struggling, or even like with athletes that just have like panic attacks when they go onto the platform or like think about competing, and so just like getting over that panic attack and achieving the success of being able to make a snatch on the platform without having nervous breakdown, and you're just like, that's huge. So I love that stuff too.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I mean, hey, that's why you do it as a coach, right? Like there's the medals, there's all that stuff, but then
Yeah.
there's where that athlete gets under a bar and the first thing that happens when after they receive the snatch is a big smile. And then you're like and then you're like I love that moment and you're just like, yeah, all right, that's awesome, and you did that, we did that together and it could have gone a complete another way.
And it does.
Yeah, and it does because you have to ride the waves of this sport as well.
That's why that smile means so much, is because it's work. It's hard work. It's the hard work of the athlete.
Definitely. Now you're doing work on the side that might help athletes do better hard work or more productive work in the long run with your research. Can you tell us a little more about the research on the jerk? Of course, the jerk is a jerk. It can be a daunting exercise for many people. So you're diving into it. What are your studies entail?
Yes, I mean, so we know that the split jerk is kind of the leading cause of either winning or losing in a weightlifting competition. It's who can put together that heaviest jerk at the end, and it's where you have. I think I ran the stats on it from AO final last year, and it was like that last clean and jerk, everyone was missing that jerk. It was like 20% make ratio or something like that for that third clean and jerk, because you're going for that number you need. It's there,
Yeah.
especially if you're fighting for a medal or
So you just got to be the
all.
guy that makes your third lift, and that could go a long way.
That's huge. If you make your last clean and jerk, you make 5 for 6, you make 6 for 6, that's usually success. But so the split jerk is often not looked at as much in the research compared to like the snatch or especially the snatch or the clean. A lot of the bar path and the biomechanics of it's all looked at that. The jerk, it's so a little bit different because you have the bar being driven overhead, because you're going into split position. So there's less research on it, which drew me to it. If something is going to if we can find some good research to help people's jerks out, that'd be awesome. Um, and
Well, and that's
so,
what, I mean, you're a coach and a business, I mean, you're an entrepreneur. Like you have many hats and different things, and that's what entrepreneurial spirited people do. You find a need and you go down that path. Like, okay, you could easily have done another research project on Snatch,
yeah,
but you picked the route that like, all right, this is an underserved thing. I think I can make a dent here. That makes sense with all that we've learned about of Kurt.
so we started playing around with using weight releasers in the split jerk as far as training protocol. So I have some athletes that were just trying to strengthen their dip in the jerk for, and giving them a little bit more confidence. So if you don't know, the weight releasers, they're hooks that go at the end of the barbell. You go down through your eccentric or downward phase of the movement. The hooks will then come off when they hit the ground, and then on the way up you have less of a load. And the way it works is it's called accentuated eccentric loading, or AEL. And because your muscle action, you can have 3 different muscle actions, right? You can have concentric, which is shortening of the muscle. You can have eccentric, which is lengthening of the muscle. And you can have isometric, where the muscle doesn't move. Now, of those three, the eccentric muscle action is where your muscle can generate the greatest amount of force. And this can be anywhere from 140% of what you can do on the concentric. Some variations there between muscle groups and between athletes. So if you're training the split jerk, we can actually load up almost 100. If you can do 100 kilo clean, 100 kilo jerk, we could theoretically do 140 kilos on the dip. And then
without losing position horribly.
Yeah. Now that weight has to come off so you can go upwards. But it's why you do heavy jerk dips, right? So we do heavy jerk dips as a way to overload the dip and drive, specifically the dip and sometimes the drive on the jerk. It's an incomplete movement. So historically, we've used in weightlifting depth jumps, so stepping off the box and then jumping up as a way to overload the eccentric portion of the dip and the jerk, or we've used the jerk drives. So I was wondering if we can use weight releasers as a way to do this. Now, weight releasers have looked good with back squats as far as developing your eccentric rate of force development, increasing your strength on the way down, as well as having a potentiating effect in some studies on the way up. So you just get stronger faster by using them.
I was going to say, my experience with them was on the bench press.
Yeah, that's the other number one, bench press, and then the back squats. And then they've used various machines, but the weight releasers, back squat, front squat, and bench press. So we've started this. We've had some success with some of our regular lifters. We had one lifter we were trying to qualify for the AO final, and he needed something like 10, 12 kilos on his clean and jerk, but his jerk was terrible. So we did 8 weeks of this intervention with twice a week doing this. He only went about 70% overhead, but he was getting to about 120% on the dip portion of the movement. And then after those 8 weeks, we did 4 weeks of kind of a peaking actualization phase. And we were able to add about 10 kilos to his jerk, and we qualified for AO final. Now, I don't know if this was a one-off or if it didn't matter. So we have to do the research. So the study is going to look at essentially the training intervention that we used with him, with at least about 12 athletes or 12 subjects now, or participants. We'll get the weighted releasers hooks as part of their training program. They'll do it twice a week. And then the other 12 athletes will do the same program, but now they will do without the weight releases. So they'll do regular split jerks, and they'll also add in some jerk dips, because it's not going to be worth it to do this exercise protocol if you can get a similar benefit from doing jerk dips. Jerk dips are just easier to implement than weight releasers.
So you have two groups, one with the releasers, one with the jerk dips?
Exactly. And so we'll see. We're testing with the 1 rep max split jerk. We're having them perform it on force plates. And so we can determine basically the amount of force that they're generating during the dip and the drive portion of the lift to see if there's any changes. So we may not get a 1 rep max increase, but we may see that they're generating a greater amount of force during the braking phase of the jerk. They're able to create a huge amount of force. Sure, they still have some technical issues, so they pressed out their split jerk or something like that, but they are getting stronger. So we can see that with the force plate data.
Is there anyone in the groups doing push jerks, or is everyone specifically just split jerk right now?
So that's a good question. For this study, I'm requiring everyone to do split jerks. With that being said, there was research done last year, I believe, where they looked at the push press, power jerk, and split jerk. And so they looked at the data on force plates, and they found if you're performing push press, push jerk, or power jerk, and split jerk all with the same weight, it looks the same on the dip and drive. But I wanted to make sure that was tested at about 80% of the push press weight. So I didn't know if it's going to change at the heavier loads that people do at a split jerk. So we have like one or two power jerkers, and they just they're not going to partake in the study.
Very cool. That makes sense now. With the participants, is there are they all following different programs, or is there another program around it where it's like, here's our specific jerk work, and then here's like maintenance stuff on the snatch, or it's just like complete jerk program? How many days a
No,
week too?
yeah, it's a full program. So it's ecologically valid in the sense that it's a standard weightlifting program. It's one of my more boring programs, but it's got everything you need. It's got
Boring but
there's
effective.
yeah, but boring and effective because you don't want a lot of variables doing crazy stuff. You want it to be simplified to be able to know it's effective and works. So, Monday is um, a snatch and clean day. So you got a snatch, you got the snatch, you got a power clean, and then you got a clean extension. Um, Day two is jerk work. So you have your jerk protocol plus back squats. Then the next day is power snatches and full cleans and snatch extensions. Then you have the jerk protocol again. So you have two jerk protocol days, and then you have 2 days that are essentially designed to help continue to make progress in your regular lifting. And so everyone's on this program. We're allowing the coaches are all certified by CUNY and the institutional review boards to be research assistants, independent research assistants on this, and because they're weightlifting coaches, and we're saying that they can make changes on the snatch clean and jerk snatch and clean days if we need to modulate the volume slightly or give some extra load or less load, or they can modify a little bit of the training to help the athlete if it's relevant to their sports performance. But the jerk protocol has to be exactly the same.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, if they make changes to the snatch and clean, it's not going to have too much of a direct impact on what's going on with all their jerk work or the split in general. Versus if you had like a study where it's like you're looking at something on the clean, maybe you wouldn't want people to tinker with pulls and other stuff going on other days.
Exactly. And like the tinkering is more geared towards not necessarily uh increasing their load, but just really giving them better practice. Like maybe they're, fumbling on their positions at the knee. So maybe let's add like a pause at the knee for them today to help learn and reinforce that position. Um, it shouldn't be too much of a confounding variable. And also, if we didn't have that luxury, I'm not going to be able to recruit. Like my athletes trust me to help them develop and get better. They're not going to forgo improving in the sport, so I can get my degree
Yeah.
for science. They like science and they like me having a degree, but they also rather have me as a coach helping their performance. So I know that.
Is there just other variables? Do you track like how they recovered from the session before, how they're eating, sleeping, psychological state? And then I guess also if some of them have different coaches, they might get different feedback. So maybe it's jerk day and just their cueing does something different. Is that something that's factored into it?
Yeah. So for this study, we're not monitoring their fatigue per se, but we are doing 1 week before they start the study. During that testing week, we have 1 week where they're doing a food diary, and then the last week of the study, they're also doing food diaries. So we're able to see if there's any like drastic changes in their nutrition. Did they like go on Atkins or start intermittent fasting randomly, and that confounded the results. Now, fatigue, we're not so concerned about their fatigue monitoring. Now, I do that for my athletes now, but that's just part of training. Um, and then as far as the protocol of what the coach can say to them during the jerks are kind of the same. We're really not trying to open it up to like, reteach them how to jerk. We're just trying to make sure that they're, have the basics and they have the rest interval. Now, during the snatch and clean, like I said, that's when the coaches are going to be more actively coaching.
Yeah, it's not the time to experiment in the experiment on jerk day. But that's great that you're
Let's change
tracking.
your foot today.
Yeah.
We've been going with your right foot forward. I think your left foot is really where it's about.
Yeah, that would be a surprise at the end of the study. Kind of like if if you have a 109 lifter and then at the end of the study they're an 89 and you're like, dude, what happened? You're like, well, I had to get my summer abs, while we're doing this
Yeah, right.
study. And you're like, well, your lifts went down.
Yeah. So they're told to keep the diet that they're going, keep their nutrition plan going, no drastic changes, no other resistance training going on during the study. So they can't, be doing a whole bunch of curls or adding in an additional squat program or doing more overhead pressing or something when no one's looking. They are allowed to do light cardiovascular activity or and light and sport specific training, but not resistance training.
How much longer do you have on the study? And you'll have to is this like for a thesis? Like you'll have to defend it?
Yeah, so I'll have to defend it. Now we had some, I guess I'm one of the first ones in my department to have a study approved to be primarily done at another site outside of the lab. This is through Lehman College. So they have a lab up there that they primarily do their resistance training, exercise protocols, and their testing. Now, most of the testing is done at my facility, and all the training is done at my facility. So when we tried to get the study approved, I had to get all my coaches and anyone else who was going to jump in. Like Sarah's helping out in the study as she's judging people's 1 rep maxes in the split jerk as part of an IWF technical official one. She says if it's a good lift or not.
Nice.
So she has to do it for every one split jerk. Which thank you,
Team
Sarah.
judgment.
Yeah, I mean, and also I'm not allowed to see, like, that's the other thing too with the two groups. It's like Kurt told everybody, like, especially since I know some of the subjects, and it's like to avoid posting so that it's like, what did you say, Kurt? It's blinded,
You're blind.
right?
You're part of the blind. You're blinded. So she's
Yes.
supposed to
So
be blinded according to the protocol, whether someone had the weight releases or not. So when there's not a chance of a bias to come in when you're judging the 1 rep maxes.
yeah.
That's tough. So you gotta, when you're at the gym, you gotta be like, oh nope, I don't see, Phil
Well,
over there
I
in the
mean,
corner.
Your training
that's the
times,
beauty.
luckily, it's
Yeah,
don't
I'm never
forget.
really around them.
And then just like the gym talk, like people are talking about the study,
The
be like, nope,
chats
nope,
are
I
really
gotta
tough.
leave this conversation.
Yeah, there's gonna be some
You're much.
censorship on the chats because we were geared towards getting the study started right after the Arnold's. Now all these athletes have a competition schedule. Like we have the MOC Open coming up, so all my local athletes are participating in that for the most part. And then as long as they're around, and then we have the nationals. So I wasn't able to. Now we didn't get the approval by the Institutional Review Board in time to start because of all these RAs that had to get approved beforehand.
All the
Research
red tape.
assistants. Yeah, so the red tape held it up. So we only got approval for the study like 2 weeks ago. They finalized it, which means I was supposed to graduate this semester. But because of
Oh
institutional
man.
bureaucracy, I
Yeah,
got held
yeah.
up. Now, I can't get, no, everyone, for the most part, we only have a couple people in the study right now starting it. Most of them are going to start after sometime in June, near the end of June, after we've done the competition. So they'll be able to do the competition, and then we'll kind of get them ready to go and in that program, and it won't interrupt their competition schedule.
Well, that's good that you don't have to rush to get it in now. The college kind of made that decision
All
for you.
changes. So I got
Can
the
people
NP
still get in?
Yeah, so some people can still get in if they're interested. They should send me an email. The training has to be supervised on site. Is usually a hang up. We have compensation. So if they do this, we reduce their membership while they're partaking in the study, and then afterwards we do 2 months at 50% off their membership. So I was able to provide compensation as long as they're able to satisfy the terms of the thing.
Is anyone doing it remotely?
No, we can't. We've had some people join us and doing it in person. They're not part of the gym, but for the most part, it's almost all the club or even some of the CrossFitters are allowed to do it. But yeah,
Very
the
cool.
remote one we weren't able to figure out how to do, because you need the supervised training with an improved research assistant.
Well, we're gonna have to get you back on to talk about the results and how this all shapes out. Hopefully, it'll just be PRs across the board.
I believe everyone, I think both groups should see improvements in their lifts. Now, hopefully or not hopefully, we have enough data to say clearly if one way or the other is beneficial.
Well, and it'll be perfect timing too, because you'll be done in the fall, right?
I'll be done by the end of the year, so it'll probably be right before AO5.
Okay, because all right, so 2025 is when we'll have the final results, and that's conveniently when I was thinking about launching McDermott weight releasers. Just so it'll work out very very well. I've had this plan for a while. They're
I need the longer handles. That's the issue right now with the rogue weight releasers. They come off pretty nicely, but the handles are not long enough so for the jerk. So you actually need to use pull blocks for it to hit.
Okay, I can do that.
Model, just do longer ones.
Yep, and I've got the verbiage on the box, scientifically proven, studied. I got it all. It's all ready. It's all ready. So.
If you need my lit review, I've got plenty of literature showing the benefits on various exercises, and it's really good. And but yeah, accentuated eccentric loading the eccentric portion, and then making sure that you maintain the natural movement pattern. So you can even do it with people use it for plyometrics, right? So they might be doing just a standard jump, vertical jump or counter movement jump. You just hold your dumbbells in your hand, you dip down, you hit the bottom of your dip, you let go, and you jump up. They did a study.
That's on day 4 right now of our club training. It's been shown they love it.
They did it with volleyball players. It's a small sample, but they did it with volleyball players, and those that use the dumbbells improved their vertical jump, improved their force production, and improved their velocity. Those that didn't use the dumbbells did not see improvement after, I think it was only a 5 or 6 week training intervention.
I should say I love it, and they endure it. We've been adding a lot of plyometric type things like that into our training on the off day, and I've noticed a difference on just how people are moving. I'd be interested to read that study if you still have that.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a 2008 Shepherd study.
Very cool.
So I'll send it your direction.
Awesome, thank you. Let's talk about the Murder Crows Open, but before we do that, I have a surprise. Check it out. Bam! Look at that.
Oh, nice.
Came prepared. Could not wear my shirt when Kurt's coming on here. I saw Sara had hers, and this whole time I've been hiding the secret. But the Murder Crows Open is coming up June 1st and 2nd. This is year number 9, correct?
I guess so, yeah.
And I am now
10, but COVID.
Well, yeah, because of COVID. So next year, 10-year anniversary celebration. And I'm also, because of that video you made a couple weeks ago, putting out all the different years. I'm addicted to the Fat Boy Slim song that was in that video. And now, right here, right now, great song.
Yes,
I will be out there at the meet on Sunday, helping out, and then coaching Shaf. He's been wanting to come down and do a New York City meet for years now, and we're finally making it happen. So it's gonna be a good time. Except for trying to find parking, that won't be a good time.
Parking can be a little problematic sometimes. It's if you get really good at parallel parking, you can always find parking though.
Yes,
that's true.
Yes.
Really good.
It only got bad because of all of the construction going up. Now there's like sidewalks like blocked off and stuff. Like that's really, because it used to be no problem to find parking around the gym, especially on like a Sunday morning. So it's a little crazy, but yeah.
So Murder Crows Open's coming up. I feel like either one of you could dive into this. This is your longest running meet, right? Because I know there's another meet, the New York City Championships and Regional Open, but that one's not as old as this meet, right?
No, by far. This was our historic meet. I think when we initially did it, we did it sometime in mid-July for the first 2 years, and I very quickly tried to push it further in. So initially, like when we were hosting it, we had to coordinate with all the other competitions that were being held, because they didn't want to have competition and too many competitions, I guess. Now, obviously, that's changed, and now we've allowed more flexibility to have people have competitions when they want to have competitions. So we pushed it a little bit earlier because it's not that fun to have in the middle of the summer when we don't have AC.
Oh,
Nice.
there's still no AC. There's no.
Nope.
No, definitely not. We got good fans, and early June, it's always been very pleasant, been nice. But yeah, the mid-July is not the time for competitions.
Yeah. Especially down in New York City, I imagine it's just humid and very hot.
It's concrete jungle, like the concrete just heats it up really quickly. And the humidity is ridiculous. So yeah, this is the 9th year. I think we have all the women lifting on Saturday, all the men lifting on Sunday. We have 2 primetime sessions. So this is something we did maybe 5-6 years ago. We started doing these primetime sessions because I go to these competitions, and oftentimes the last session of the day, the crowd leaves. Everyone starts going because they're tired. They already lifted. It's been a long day. They want to go home. So you have the oftentimes it was the supers kind of lifting there, or someone lifting the heaviest load, but there's 3 people, 4 people in the audience at that point. So to try to make it more exciting, I went with this primetime group, and it's kind of mirrored after. Do you remember the right before Rio Olympics, they did the Olympic trials? And so you had Kendrick Ferris going against Norik Vardanian in that epic battle, but they had all the weight classes just battling it out all for the men.
The 96s, right? Or no, 94, right? At the time.
94 is that, yeah. Then
my first coach went to there.
She was there, yeah, right?
Heather, yeah, she lifted there, yeah.
I thought it was the most exciting thing I ever saw was just that competition and just seeing the best lifters all in one session. So we did the prime time, and to make it even, to force these lifters to make sure they maintain their weight and actually achieve and lift at that last session of the day. Like, we've done the prize money for their participation. So
that's very cool.
Pretty exciting and fun for that.
And there's prize money for best overall lifters, and then also for teams, right?
Yeah. So the past couple of years, we used to do like a first place, second place, third place of lifters. And so these lifters, we want to encourage the team atmosphere. So we base it off of kind of how they do it at the AO series, where you have 5 athletes, co-ed, and it's by their place. You have 1 athlete can bomb out, and you still have 4 athletes being score pointers. And so it's the $1,500 for the best team. And then it's also at $200 for the first place, best male, best female.
Very cool. I mean, hey, that's a lot of money for a team to win. A couple people, you get your new barbell or a whole plate set, or pay for everybody's gym membership. Like there's a lot of things you can hotels to nationals or AO finals. Like you can really do a lot of good with that, and I'm sure it creates a nice bonding experience for the team too. Like, look what we did, and then you can enjoy that after the fact too.
Exactly. So
very much so.
You have to be part of a club, and so it encourages people to, like, I think we had Philadelphia Barbell, like they all came in right before nationals.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a tight year. It was Philadelphia Barbell, McKenna's gym, and Murder of Crows. And I mean, it literally came down to I had to go through like 3 tiebreakers at that point, or something crazy like that. It was really exciting for me anyway. I know Kurt was like freaking out in the corner, but it was really, really exciting. And to like give it to Sally to like and announce it. It was good. The year we
lost. Wasn't it?
Wait, did we lose?
It was the
McKenna did one. Yes,
year that we've lost.
Yes.
So I was
McKenna won. Yeah, that's right. And he was excited because he was going to be able to buy some dumbbells for his gym. He was thinking, but yeah. all the uses with the money. You could give it to your team, the teammates, the team members. You could buy gym equipment, fix things, all that sort of stuff. But
Coaches
yeah,
always have a wish list of things that are exciting only to them. You know, like, oh, new dumbbells. Like I can't wait. And everyone's like, all right, cool. But that also means I can program them and all the spicy things I want to do because we didn't have enough. But that's awesome. And registration's closed right now, right? How are we doing on volunteers? If anyone is free, should they reach out?
sure. Yeah. I mean, we're doing pretty well now at this point, but I mean, we can always use loaders, and I think we have a couple of marshal spots. I'm very grateful to our, we have a lot of our usual volunteers. We have some newer clubs where some people are actually starting to help out from those new clubs, which is great. We appreciate you, James, traveling. And I actually have a friend who's from Chicago who is coming out. Literally, she was like, I haven't been to New York in a while. I'll come visit and help out at your meet, and I'll do stuff around it. Just, maybe don't put me in the chair for the last two sessions of the meet. And I was like, sure. So thanks to April Roach, who's coming out from Chicago. But yeah, I mean, pretty cool. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. And I mean, Erica Queso, our Western rep, is coming down and lifting. She is in the primetime session. Michelle Woogan, athlete rep, is coming down also to lift. And who else? Stephanie Jefferson, who's one of the reps from the New England WSO, is also coming down and lifting in primetime. We've had her before. Always a pleasure to have all of those women. But yeah,
It's going to be a
should
WSO
be a very
party.
fun time. I know, it's going to be awesome. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I can't wait. You know, it's coming up really quick. Like, what are we at? 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
2.5, I guess.
Yeah, Memorial Day is almost here, and then boom, it'll be the meet the week after, right? Yeah, wow. Okay, time's flying. It's essentially 2025 already. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Feels that way.
Yeah. It does.
Well, I want to make sure we take a look at all the places that people can find info on Murder of Crows. So you guys are on Instagram, so on Instagram, you can go to Murder Crows Barbell Club. And when you're there, there's a link tree that will bring you to all important links. The gym itself is located at 1010 Dean Street, Brooklyn, New York. So if you're in the area for weightlifting or powerlifting or CrossFit, right? Like it's a barbell destination. So if you're dropping into the area, we can recommend this gym for sure. And then you can also see all the great news and the lifting that's being done at the gym. If you scroll down, and there's the shirt I'm wearing right there. Boom. And you said, Sarah, this shirt is based on Paris, right?
Yeah, Kurt actually made it, but it has like lots of like Parisian elements. And so I mean that's the design that's going to be on the medal. Again, this is the last year we'll have the medal with the for the Olympic quad. We will have that, but we will have new shirts for 2024. Kurt actually just ordered those right before we got on this call.
Very cool. Perfect timing. Look at that. People getting a sneak peek behind the scenes, but that is a cool shirt. I like the color too. Oh, there are the medals. Speaking of the
Yeah.
medals, look at those.
Well done, Sarah. Those were
I
some of the
mean,
best medals we've seen.
Look at the detail, like on the flowers back here, the little
I
dots and
know.
everything. I like how the crow, like it's all in the eyes. Like this crow, it with the flat up top, like this is serious. It's a stern crow, but that is awesome there. And the meat is, oh, this was last year, but sold out again. So very cool. We have the website, murderofcrowsbrooklyn.com. And here again, you can find important information. You can find out about programs, the schedule, the about, membership information, events that are coming up. There is a chat function here. I think his name is Edgar, right? Yeah, Edgar. I've met Edgar a couple times as I've opened up the website. Murder of Crows AI. And then we have, of course, a new location, right? Kurt, do you want to talk about this a little bit? Murder of Crows, Brooklyn. This is a secondary location that'll have some different things, right?
Yeah, so this is actually on the block. The idea here is yes, we're going to still stay, true to some of our lifting roots. We have 4 platforms designed to like drop and be actually quiet, because there is like office spaces in the building. We're gonna have 4 platforms, 2 deadlift platforms, 2 combo racks. It's going to have all your various selectorized machines and treadmills. We'll have a locker room for everyone with showers. So this is in the midst right now. They are just getting the certificate of occupancy, I think, next week. And then we're able to start building out the lockers. And then I think we're looking at June, probably July, sometime end of July, we'll start being able to open it up to people. This one will have AC though, which is nice.
All right.
But it's on the same block, so it's going to be a facility like designed for people who's looking for more of a traditional type gym atmosphere with like good quality equipment, that you can get very strong lifting some heavy weights as well.
Very cool. And you're not averse to filling in a space like this and modeling the gym and designing it. I like those pillars. Those pillars are cool, and also a nice glass front there in the entranceway.
Oh my God, the comments are so funny. Muhammad wants a sauna.
Yes,
Yeah.
Samir was dreaming about a pool. Yeah,
Well,
pretty
you gotta
good.
tell him that's the other gym. He's just got to go down the street and do a little bit of training for in the summertime for the
exactly.
sauna,
He
and then he
knows
can
too.
come back over here. Yeah,
So funny.
very cool. And this is 964 Dean Street. Is there a tentative grand opening date or anything like that?
So yeah, I think it's going to probably be sometime in July at this point. It's gonna be midsummer. We have to wait on this building. I think I signed a lease back in September, or started talking and getting negotiations done in September. We agreed to terms, but the building itself hasn't been able to be occupied. They've been working on getting the permits for this, the permits for that. If anyone's knows what it's like to actually build and deal with the Department of Building in New York City, it's difficult. So that's been the holdup so far, is really just getting them everything on my end's ready to go as soon as we can get in the building, and then we can build our locker room, and then we'll roll in all the once we build the locker room, we'll have lockers installed, we'll have the flooring all done, and then we'll have all the equipment delivered. So
Very cool. So we'll have to keep an eye out.
approval. Yeah. I was hoping to have it ready by the MOC Open. That was initially what we were slated for, but that's not going to be the case.
All the red tape, we've experienced that out here with the Talent Colony. You want to make one move and they're like, well, give us 12 months and maybe we'll think about it. We'll stamp it, allow you to do this thing in your business that isn't going to affect anyone or other than positively. It's always amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the next round of connections. Like, you've done the coaching connections, you've done the technical official connections. Now you need to get all the building people connections.
No, I don't want that.
You need to get them on the team, teach them how to weightlift, and then they'll be like, yeah, I like that idea of installing a sauna over there. I think I'll approve that, Kurt, thank you so much for coming on. Sara, as always, thank you for your time. Kurt, any closing thoughts for the people out there on anything that we've talked about or haven't talked about?
No, thank you for having me, and thank you for inviting me to do this. It was fun. It's always great to see Sara. I don't see her enough or anything like that. And it's good to see you, James, too. And I'm excited that you're coming down for the MOC Open. I think we'll have a blast.
Definitely. I'm excited to get down there. I'm happy to know more about you. Like we've met in passing here and there, but of course there's not always time at weightlifting meets and stuff to sit down and have a conversation. So I'm glad that we had this opportunity and to let our community know, about the Coach of the Year, and also, just the history of your gym. Everyone knows Murder Crows, but now hopefully they know about Murder Crows and what makes your gym so special. So thank you for all that you do and all that you will do.
Yes.
Awesome. Sara, Thank you. We'll do it again soon. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Until next time. We need like a closing catchphrase now or something like that. We'll figure it
Okay.
out.